building. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. My name is Steph Matthews. I am an inclusion partner at Creative Equals. Creative Equals are a global inclusion consultancy. We are here to deliver equity and inclusion for all of our clients. We do that through inclusive marketing programs, culture programs, because we're aware if we want to drive inclusion in marketing, starts with the people, and we also do that through inclusive communities. So we have a programs that support marginalised groups. We have one that's just launched this week for disabled creatives, which is about ensuring that we can have a full diversity and inclusion across the creative sector. But yeah, I'm here today. It's not about me, although I wish it was.
We can make it about you.
We're here to talk with Efrain Ayala, who is the Global Creativity and D&I Director at Reckitt. And in my view, one of our most progressive clients. We've worked with Reckitt and Efrain for almost 3 years, I think. I'm really proud of some of the work we've done together. So yeah, I wanted to use this time to share with you all this 15 minutes on any kind of learnings that we could get from the programs that we run together. So Efrain, before we kick off, let's talk a bit about your kind of background and how you got into this space, because I guess for me, there's very few people out there that are doing marketing and DEI, but you've kind of forged that role for yourself. How did that come about?
In a roundabout, windy way. So my career, I started in public relations, and then I went to the creative agency. I joined Ogilvy and Mather in Chicago, which is where I'm from, if you're trying to place my accent. And I was a planner there. And then I got into media, and I joined Reckitt to help drive a digital transformation over years across the business. And then, 2020 happened, and I was an American in my little bubble in Amsterdam, seeing all of the unrest and protest happening back home in the States, and I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I was this person who was in a safe little bubble in Amsterdam, posting on Instagram every day, and it just didn't feel like enough for me. And so I went to our exec leadership team, and I was like, listen, I can create transformation in this company. I've done it time and time again. So let me create a DE&I transformation in the same way I created a data-driven marketing transformation. So my CMO, Fabrice, gave me the shot to create a practice within Reckitt that hadn't been created before. So I joined the Marketing Center of Excellence team, where I help our global brand teams who owned equity and innovation define the intersection of profitable, sustainable growth and inclusion, and as well working with our teams in market who bring our brands to life through marketing activation, understand the new skills and the new awareness and the new resources and tools they needed to deliver more inclusive marketing and comms. So a bit of a role where I'm helping shape our innovation pipeline across our over 35 brands, but also helping our marketeers in market understand what they need to do differently if they're going to have that positive societal impact that we can have with the power of our brands.
So it's almost like you've provided it through marketing excellence. It's a skill that they need to have, and you're making sure that all of the marketeers that you work with have that skill.
When, back in 2015, data-driven marketing was the skill a marketeer and brand builder needed in order to have a long, sustainable career. DE&I is that next S-curve that brand marketers have to climb, because if we can't get that right, we're not going to be successful marketers. Our brands won't live that much longer, because at the end of the day, the practice of DE&I is understanding your consumers, and that's the core task of a marketeer.
Yeah, it is. I would 100% agree. And there's always lots of talk around, well, you kind of hear lots of brands almost kind of jumping on that purpose bandwagon and kind of, is it a trend? Is it something that we need to be working on? Like, how do you ensure that you are aligning kind of purpose with profit?
Yeah, purpose is such a dirty word in the industry at the moment. But at the end, but at the end of the day, for us, it's not about how much we talk about it, it's the actions that we take with the power of our brands. So for us, yes, we have, all of our brands have a purpose, that's why they exist in the world, but for us it's more about the actions we take. So we think more about fights. What are the fights our brands can take? And what are the fights that we can bring to consumers that contribute to a larger meaning? So each one of our brands is aligned to one UN Sustainable Development Goal, where we can actually drive measurable change, and we measure that and we activate against that. We'll have an example here in a second, but one is our Nurofen business, which is the purpose of that brand is to put people, not pain, in charge of life. Pretty obvious as an over-the-counter painkiller. But the fight is where the magic happens and is where we can find the intersection of growth and positive societal impact. The brand is connected to UN SDG 3, which is about enabling access to good health and wellness to all people. And so when we think about that in the context of what the brand purpose is, we needed to think who's not getting fair, fast, and equitable access to pain treatment. So through that work, we had to understand there's actually systemic biases that exist all around people and the category that prevent communities from getting fast, appropriate access to pain treatment. And specifically in the UK, it's women. Over 1 in 2 women feel that their pain goes dismissed or ignored because it's emotional, it's stress-based, or that's what it's like to be a woman, you just need to deal with it. And so with the powerful connections we have as a brand, an over-the-counter brand, with pharmacists, with healthcare providers and GPs, as well as the science that we drive to create our product, we could do much more than just innovating on the latest molecule. We can actually understand what are the unique pain needs that women have, because they have more pain by volume and have more pain types than men. So for us, it was about understanding what can Nurofen do to help close the gender pain gap. And I believe we have a video.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get up, I didn't want to. Eat, I didn't want to. Sorry. This pain was like you were being tortured.
Over 50 years of living with pain.
To just put up and, carry on. And should the time I couldn't. My friends got on with their lives and promised I should be okay. I was told it was just wear and tear. That was it, wear and tear.
Why don't you go to bed then if you're in pain?
Or maybe it's just stress.
You start to believe when they say that there's nothing medically wrong.
Yeah, nothing wrong with you. Like this energy of dismissal, like...
I think if I'd have been told your end's real, it'd have saved my mental health.
I don't think for 1 minute, if a man was sitting in my position, they would say, you're just being emotional, Mr. Smith.
That was like an ongoing theme. You're the female that doesn't really know what you're talking about, kind of.
No one was listening. They just looked at me and assumed I was an overly dramatic woman.
Nurofen is committed to help close the gender pain gap with new research and more training for doctors and pharmacists. We hear you, we support you, we see your pain.
So, yes, we developed comms, but driving positive impact and inclusion is more than just the marketing that we put out. I think towards the end, we highlight a little bit of what's going to be or what is happening behind the scenes. We obviously have partnerships with major retailers who have pharmacists, and pharmacists also hold that bias that tend to dismiss women. So we are working with our partners to provide bias trainings to pharmacists so they can better understand that bias that might be getting in the way from helping women. We're also working with GPs. We're also going to be measuring annually the gender pain gap here in the UK to make sure that we're committed to closing that. But it's also some of the unsexy stuff that happens behind the scenes, like do we have the right representation in our clinical trials to make sure that we really are confident that our product work on women's unique physiology? Because oftentimes clinicals are filled with young, able-bodied white men, and so how could we possibly say that we know that our product works on women's pain? For us, luckily, we've had strong representation in our clinicals, but now we have a formal commitment to doing so. And I think that's been some of the great work that we've been able to do with the Creative Equals team, is not only help us deliver comms that feel authentic, are aligned to the brand fight, and are including other people, but the Creative Equals team also helped us figure out how we do innovation in a more inclusive way for this particular brand.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the programs that we're most proud of, and actually Debbie Tembo, who's in the audience today, has been leading that from a Creative Equals perspective. But how challenging is it just generally to kind of sell in inclusion? Like, did you have kind of challenges with this or any other brands? Like, how do you make sure that it is top of the agenda?
Yeah, I view myself as the outsider on the inside. So
the agitator, that's a good thing in a corporate.
Yeah, I think oftentimes the D&I conversation within brands gets relegated to, did you have representation in your comms? Great job, you've done it, mission accomplished, move on to the next thing. For us, it was, we needed to show the business that by closing the gender pain gap, we will drive growth for the business, and that then makes sure that this effort gets sustained. We know that women suffer more from pain. We also know they undertreat in the category. So the story was actually quite obvious for our senior leadership to say, if we close the gender pain gap, we're also going to be benefiting women specifically, but we will drive growth in the category because we know that they're undertreating partly, if not majorly, driven by the biases that we're trying to tackle. And so when we're able to paint that narrative back to the business, it's not only a moral imperative, it's now a business imperative. So it's much easier to sell that story in when there's clear opportunity for creating growth and positive societal impact. Now, it's not always easy across all of our brands, but it's something that when we show the value of positive impact can have on the bottom line, it's much more easy to sell in and sustain.
Yeah, I can definitely see that from the work that we've done. It's about growth, it's about showing business results, because it can be quite challenging to kind of pull on people's heartstrings as to why it is just it's a growth driver. And I guess, what other kind of programs or brands are you most proud of at Reckitt in terms of building inclusion into the core of the strategy?
Yeah, I think another one for me is our Vanish business. They recently launched the Me, My Autism and I. They won the Channel 4's Diversity Award this year.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's something you guys are also involved in. Maybe there's a theme here. But it's just something that is also important because clothing, of course, means a lot to all of us because it can be a way in which we express ourselves, how we identify, the way we show up. But it's disproportionately relevant and super important to people who have sensitivities specifically around autism, where they view items of clothing as a safe space. It's the one consistent thing that they have in their lives. And with Vanish, knowing the multiple benefits that we have, we can keep clothes alive for much longer due to stain removal, odor removal, color fading, all of those benefits, which are the reason why the product exists, but it has a much more emotional and significant meaning to specific communities who rely on clothing to be there and be there consistently. So we're also really proud of that work because it highlights again that there's an opportunity to sell product, which is what we're here to do as corporate entities, but also we can have a significant impact in people's lives. And that campaign is drawing attention to the fact that girls often are longer to diagnose because they're better at masking. And so 1 in 3 girls often face a delayed diagnosis because of that. So we wanted to bring awareness to that through the Vanish work and of course draw a connection to why Vanish would be talking about it.
Exactly, that's the thing where if you kind of had that on paper, you'd be like, what is the link? I can't see that, but I think you've been able to do that quite effectively and impactfully as well. I think our time is up. We've got 1 minute. Does anyone have a question? Go for it.
Yes, thanks. You talked about the moral argument versus the business argument. So I was wondering whether you had any experiences with markets where that is a clash, right? So there are markets like in China or the Middle East where the moral argument will contradict the business argument. because some moral things that we stand for in the West will not be as well received. So, any experiences with that?
Yeah, I get that pushback a lot in certain markets. Typically we'll see, our market's more conservative, and women are expected to do the home cleaning and the house cleaning, and so if we show men doing that, we would alienate significant parts of the culture and the community. I've yet to see actual data that substantiates that. So I keep asking, because my data-driven background, I'm like, where's the data that would say that if we showed a man touching the laundry machine, would there be a revolt against the product? And we've not yet seen that. And so it's about encouraging those particular conservative markets and teams to think about what's one step forward that we can take. And maybe it's a small step, but let's take it. And our Vanish business in the Middle East has that challenge, and there will be 5 interactions with the laundry machine or dirty clothing, and all 5 are dedicated to the women interacting with that. And I said, what if you made 2 of those 5 the man also interact? And so teams have been comfortable to take that small step to move forward, because there is that dynamic that exists and there is nuance across all markets. But I just really challenge them to think, what is one small step forward that we can take? And if we think about some of the most successful D&I initiatives have come from markets like India. If you look at P&G's Ariel, they started this conversation in 2015 around gender equality within the home. We know it can be done, we know it can be successful. It's just about being a little bit brave.
100%. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Efrain. Thank you, Phyllis. Do we have time?
Hi, Shapira from Microsoft, and I have seen the gender pain gap piece before, and also the autism, Vanish and autism ad before as well, and they really, really were interesting. One question I've got for you, especially around pain. My mum suffered from a lot of pain as I was growing up, and she used to rely on me to translate to doctors. And what I found now that I'm older, and actually I suffer from pain as well, very similar to my mum's actually, is the language that we as people use around pain. And so, the doctors would go, are you in pain? And my mum would go, no, I've just got burning. And I'd be like to the doctor going, no, I was 15. No, she's not got any pain, but she can't walk. I think, and as well as educating doctors and pharmacists and all of that, I think there is a piece around actually understanding how people define these things, how they are talking about it themselves, and how can we bring that into our marketing? How can we use our marketing to also educate on how they might want to talk about it? Or that, pain can be many things. It can be, feeling like a prickliness, or it can feel like, shooting, stabbing pains, or it could be burning sensations and things like that. So just something to kind of elaborate on or think about how you grow the marketing.
I think communication often gets in the way of, especially with people, and being able to communicate back to their HCPs and the pharmacists. One of the activations that exists within the Nurofen work is exactly that, to help people understand how to use language that a doctor and HCP might understand. So in our pharmacy activations, we have signage that we provide our pharmacists to post, so people can say it's electric, or it's moving, or it's tingling, or it's needles, to kind of create more shared language that we can then kind of break down some of those barriers that can get in the way of people getting the right treatment.
Yeah, and building empathy into it. Yeah. Well, I think our time's up.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Efrain. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Everyone.